So, Crash 4 is right around the corner, and man, it's about time. I'm sorry, but for real, this is extremely big. If you follow me on Twitter, then you'll know how excited I am for this game, along with every other single person apparently. I legitimately cannot describe how much I am ready to play this. A new Crash game that looks this good? The only thing I'm worried about is that I hope that there's enough content in there to warrant a $60 price tag. But I think it's generally agreed that Crash 4 is doing just about everything right. Crash's new design, hell, everyone's new design, fantastic. Art style, super good. Music, haven't really heard much of it. Visual effects, great eye candy. All I really need now is to feel how it plays, and that day is finally today. There's not going to be any live action camera cuts for me in this video because I want to show off as much gameplay as possible. Okay, I'm back. Alright, after spending a little over an hour or two with the demo and constantly going back because no, I don't have a problem, I have quite a bit to say. So right away, I love the entire look and feel of this game. Crash 4 runs at a smooth 60 FPS with minor frame pacing here and there, but it's not often. I am playing off of a PS4 Pro for reference. We're given 3 levels to choose from, 2 ice levels and 1 lava level. Really don't know about choosing 2 ice levels. They're not really the most fun in platformers. But nonetheless, these 2 levels are the main levels that we've seen during the promotional material, so it makes sense that we get to play them now. The first level is a pretty good starter level for the demo difficulty-wise. It's really not too hard and the solutions are pretty simple. The challenge is executing them. But don't get me wrong, it gets pretty hard. And can I just say that growing up, I never ever remember that being a really hard game was the shtick of Crash games. I think that's just a result of people playing an older game and realizing new games are a little too easy. So Crash 4 being really hard kinda seems out of place for me, but that may just be me. So the first thing I did when the demo started was flex Crash's controls. I wanted to see how the movement felt, and I gotta say, it's kinda hit or miss for me. See, I love how snappy Crash is. The animations really do emphasize the new art style and give it a unique look. It's pleasing to the eye and I really like it. What I don't like is the absolute lack of momentum. What I loved about Crash 2 and 3 and even the Insane trilogy was that no matter how many times you died, you could easily pick up the pace when you respawn and keep the flow going. Momentum felt like it all flowed together and you could keep on going no matter what move you were doing. The slide jump in Crash 4, for example, just absolutely stops you dead in your tracks. This was really shown off as a problem to me during the dinosaur level. During the chase sequence, slide jumping literally halts you wherever you jump, and that's a really bad thing when something is chasing you. Whereas before, slide jumping continued your movement forward. But for some reason, when you do the slide sweep kick move, you still maintain momentum, just not when you jump. The double jump is also a flow killer. Crash 3 did the same thing, and I didn't like it there either. It would just feel so much better if I could use my built-up speed in the air when I double jump. And that's really the only thing control-wise I think I had an issue with. Other than momentum stopping on a dime, Crash does feel really nice to move around. His jump arc actually isn't as wonky as it was in the Insane trilogy. I can actually gauge where I am in the air and where I'm about to land. Crash is also fast, like really fast. His movement speed feels way faster than any of the old games, which is good and bad. Good because it aids in the problem I was saying earlier where you die and you can keep the momentum going wherever you respawn. Bad because it doesn't feel like the levels are designed around his speed sometimes. A good way to put it is that it feels like the levels are moving slower than Crash is. I get this feeling of the game kind of conflicting with itself on how fast it wants you to go. The actual level design itself is extremely good. The first 2 are really fun, and the third being alright, we'll get to that in a bit. I loved how in the first level it actually opened up a little bit for you to explore. Crash is known for having hallway levels where you just go one way in a very tight corridor. Crash 4 continues that, but actually encourages more exploration for the tight nooks and crannies. Look at this. I know how level design works. You didn't think I'd find that single box, huh? I know how you think. If all the levels are this well designed, then I think Crash 4 will have some of the best levels in the series, but I still need to play the full game first. I I also want to mention how much I really like the bonus levels. These feel more like real puzzles than the original trilogies did. I actually had to stop and think a few times about how I was going to tackle it. I love it when games do this, especially when they're this cleverly put together. Toys for Bob also added some small details that I really appreciate. One of my favorites is when you stand still and spin, Crash puts his arms down, which lowers his hitbox so you can hit crates underneath TNT boxes. But if you move while spinning, Crash raises his arms, making his hitbox bigger. They didn't need to add that detail, but I'm glad they did. Something this game adds but doesn't really explain is retro and modern mode, which, by the way, I apologize if I get something wrong in this video regarding the demo. The demo itself didn't really explain anything at all about how it works. Modern mode gives you unlimited lives and a death route, I think. Retro mode brings back the lives counter and adds life boxes throughout the level. Both modes still give you this new death counter underneath your lives, which I think is a nice addition. Next up, we have the Cortex levels. Now, when I first saw Cortex's gameplay behind closed doors, it was rough, like really rough. I was not expecting to actually enjoy myself playing as him, which I did. Cortex's levels are actually puzzles. He doesn't have all the crazy movement options like Crash has. Cortex can jump once, rocket forward with his galaxy brain, and shoot his laser gun at enemies. Shooting them once turns them into a platformer, and shooting them again makes them a bounce pad. Shooting it a third time will revert it back to an enemy in case you have to realign your shot. The level design is essentially like a maze. You have all these different paths to try and get to so you can break every crate. It's good fun, but kind of underwhelming when compared to Crash's levels. All I really thought about during this time was how much I want to play Crash more. At the end of Cortex's section, you'll see Crash in the midst of a cutscene from another level. After the same cutscene plays out, you're handed over to control Crash in a harder version of that level. This is a really fun idea for a hard mode. I like the addition of passing over control to Crash after experiencing Cortex's side of things. Now, I've spoken a lot about nice little additions here and there, but the big additions are the new elemental masks we've seen throughout the promos. So far, we only get to control two of them, Lonnie Loli and Kapunawa. Lonnie is the mask that we saw in the first trailer. When equipped, he can phase in and out objects from another dimension by pressing a button. This makes platforming really fun and challenging. Kapunawa is the mask that slows down time for a small bit. This includes everything besides Crash, of course. These masks add a much needed lift to Crash's gameplay that I'm excited to see them expand on. Aku Aku is also here, and he's just kind of spinning. I don't really know why he spins the entire time. Usually he's floating next to you until you take a hit. Having him constantly spin around you is kinda silly. I liked having him just float around next to you while you made your way through the level. He also floats around Cortex for some reason, even though Cortex is the bad guy. The bad guys have their own mask, Uka Uka, so I don't know why he's here. You could argue that it's a demo and it could be fixed, but the game comes out pretty soon, so I think this is near final. The only other thing I can think of that stood out was the new circle underneath Crash when he's up in the air. This is to signify where you will land. In the Insane trilogy, when you were in the air, your shadow would quickly move under you to show where you were landing. This stands out more and it's easier to see, but I feel like I'm relying on it too much. I really like it, don't get me wrong, but little things continuously throw me off with it. Like when you're near an edge, it does fall off to show that you're over an edge, but then it stays on the air above the pit. My brain in the moment sees the circle and I think it's solid ground, just to realize the circle was highlighting the pit. I'd much prefer if the circle just wasn't visible over a pit. Minor gripes aside, I'm extremely excited. I highlighted some problems I have with the game, but I still enjoyed my time playing it, and I'm still playing it actually. This gave me the sneak peek that I needed, and I am super satisfied. What do you guys think of the demo? Let me know in the comments below, and with all that said, I'll see you all in the next video.